okay? We believe that the city council has broken their oath of office as far as their financial responsibilities, just the whole thing, not planning ahead, not trying to take care of their people as they should, because that's part of the job. You try to plan ahead as much as you can, and these things they've known about for a long time. As far as the water situation, everybody sees our city crumbling around us. It's not news to anybody. It's been happening for a while. There's a whole long list of grievances if we wanted to go over them, but I think we all are kind of aware of those. If we try to remember, the water situation and the waterways and the mismanagement of our water resources up at Lake Palapino has really opened my eyes to just how far these people will go. Because we all need water. Everybody has to have water to live. They may raise our water bill, but we're going to have to find a way to do it because we got to have water, and they know that. And they've used that against us, I think. The fact that they want to have us pay a 70% increase on our water bills for the privilege of having the source of life and everything that everyone needs with a little more than 60 days notice is ridiculous. There's not a lot of people that can do that, We've got a city that has a poverty rate of over 16%, which in other means that translates to over 35, or right at 35% for single persons that don't have another income coming into the house. That's ridiculous to think that you can put that burden on people with less, a little more than 60 days, like 68, something like that. And I think you're all in agreement about that. I've heard a lot of that anyway. Then, next we hear about this $273 bond that we're going to have put in front of us. Well, it's not really going to be put in front of us. They have circumvented the public as far as the voters. We have no say in that, is what they're saying. And it's true, because the only reason that we would be able to have a vote on that bond is, is if they use a portion of the ad valorem, how do we say that wrong, the valorem taxes, as far as part of the property taxes. If they use any of that on a bond, then yes, you have to go before us and give us a vote, to approve it. And tacking that, yes, ma'am.
What is the bond for?
The bond is for Turkey Peak, the completion of that, the construction phase. And also they have got some repairs at the pump station, Bradley's pump station below Hilltop, from what I understand. And then there's a $10 million public works facility that they want to put down there where the old cemetery was, out at Woodland Park. If you're familiar with that, the old Southwestern Gas Pipeline building is what it is. And they want to put, from what I understand, the treatment plant there and the public works building. I have a hard time with that. Yes, Mark?
Doesn't that include the new,
The RO system too, yes, thank you.
not all of the treatment?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I say that? Yeah, I thought it was mentioned.
What did she say?
Okay, yeah.
We're having a hard time hearing you.
Okay, yes, it does include the Hilltop treatment plant. That bond includes Hilltop, all right, which is a brand new deal. Well, I say Hilltop, it's not going to be Hilltop anymore. I don't know what they're planning to do with that facility, when they're done, got a new one. But that thing is at least 10 years out. Any solution that they come up with is at least 10 years out. And we've got to have water now. And that's what's so concerning when you see all of the information as far as the water losses within the city's own distribution system. If they're losing $2 million, and I say if, it's true, it's in a report by their own engineers from 2014, saying that there's at least a $2 million loss. I'm not 2 million gallons. I'm sorry, I'm talking dollars instead of gallons. I should be talking gallons. But they're losing over $2 million there at the open channel that they use to transport the raw water all the way from the outlet, or the intake valve is what they call it, there on Lake Palapinto. It travels 27 miles down the creek bed to get to our treatment facility. Well, it gets to the Bradley's pump station, then they pump it up a big pipe, big 36-inch pipe, straight up to Hilltop. And after it gets to Hilltop, it sets in the sedimentation reservoir for 30 additional days. Let some of the solids and things, come out sink down to the bottom. And that's all before it's even used. Before it even goes really to the plant, that's what I think, That's what I consider it. It's not in the plant yet. That sedimentation reservoir is also subject to evaporation. So those numbers, as far as 2 million a day, that's very conservative. That doesn't include anything once it goes up that pipe. It goes up the pipe and it goes to the reservoir. It's very concerning, especially when they have us on water restrictions where we can't even keep our outside yard and landscaping alive. Our foundation, I know I've read about people saying their foundations are cracking. Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that the trees downtown have got plenty of water.
They got bugs on them and stuff. I noticed that also. So I don't know what the story is there. I haven't approached that end of it. But, it's very concerning when you're having property damage because of that situation. And I had him writing from the city manager several weeks ago. I mean, at least 3. I'd have to check my memory on that. But anyway, no, I know it's at least 3 weeks. It's when I first started conversing with him about the water losses and all of these concerns that we have. And he says to me that there are several options they could go as far as the watering of the outside landscaping. They said, he said, there's many things we can look at. I'm thinking about now maybe changing it to a 1 day a week thing, with alternate. Anyway, he said, there's several routes we can take, and I'm looking at that. But we haven't heard one word about it being lifted, and that's some time ago. I mean, it's a lot can happen to your yard in 3 weeks. I mean, I've got a creek about this, a crack about this one. I got to think about the creek man, out there beside my garage, and it's very concerning. Yes.
I'd like to add something probably a lot of people aren't aware of.
Speak up, sir.
I'm a state certified residential appraiser, 23 years.
Yes, sir.
Also real estate.
Can you speak a little louder, please, sir? You want this? You want this? They got me kind of trapped up here.
My name's Gene Ender. We lived here a day or two since 1989, and we chose this area because of the beauty of the area, and also not the groups and crowds and get yourself shot off the street and different things. But what y'all are aware that's happening right now with this water, this happened about 5 years ago up at Possum Kingdom Lake. If you'll recall, I was doing a lot of federal appraisals up there, and those homes range anywhere from $1 million to $5 million. And a lot of it depends on if you've got access to the water, or you've got a view, or whatever. It makes a lot of difference. You've got a dock. Some of those docks are $200,000. Well, it was dry. It was down about 10 foot or 11, and the banks kept pushing from, mainly these were up north. And so we had 1 day of daybreak, kind of, no activity. So I had 2 of them going, one at the north end and one at the other end. The north end is shallow, and when I got to that place, the dock was actually sitting on the ground, trees growing around it, and it was probably easily worth nearly $200,000. But it doesn't do much good if you don't have the dock usable unless you dive into the dirt. And then I went to the other one, but it was off the cliffs, and so it wasn't a problem with water there. I called the banker, and I said, because that night, God blessed us all of a sudden on that one. And I thought we might have learned our lesson, but apparently we haven't, is that it started raining. It started raining up into the watershed, and even the Dallas news was saying, oh, and the Brazos is risen, 3 feet, 4 feet. So I called the bank the next day. I said, I think that is rising. And I said, let's wait a week, and I'll go back out. And I went out a week later. The dock was floating. You didn't see trees. And the value of that property went up by $75,000. Now, think about this part of it. If you're trying to sell your property and an appraiser comes out for a lender, and then these things are going to get harder and harder, as y'all are now seeing interest rates, bankers with, handlebars, whatever, but they're not making the loans easy. But when you put in that report, if you're doing your job as an appraiser, you have to state about the situation with the water in this town. And it's kind of a bad thing when a banker looks, there is no water allowed to be used outside the home. And the first time we'll start on that a new reservoir and break dirt is in the year 2025. Now, that's getting the dirt. That doesn't give us the water. And we need to pray to make sure that maybe God can give us something to get what we have. But this is going just downhill. And it's going to get out and affect everyone's property, you know, because you can't use your property or have any landscaping, and you're like in the middle of a desert. So y'all need to be kind of aware of what's happening there. The last thing that I heard, I was on the planning and zoning board, was during that time they were going to run a pipe down to the Brazos and then commingle water out of Palapena Lake and make that work. Well, we got that water so quick, it's kind of like, I broke my leg yesterday, but it's wonderful today. Okay, let's go to something else. So that got shoved this way, that way, bring more people. Well, we're putting taps out there, and you can't supply them with water. So what good is that? You know, you're going to have to stop somewhere, because it's going to be at least a few years before we can get water to supply the area.
Dean Sullivan told me on Friday, Brandon, how many taps are waiting out in just within the city of Mineral Wells? He said.
In the county, there's 4,500 taps.
That's what he's
Palapena
claiming.
County.
You know, we're just waiting for us to get this water situation ironed out, you know, with Turkey Peak and everything.
And what also, if you're living in a house, that's going to affect that value too.
Thank you, Gene. It does affect every single one of us, all of it, you know? Certainly.
Why are we selling water to other places?
Well, their answer is to pay for it, to help pay for it, so your bills don't go up so high. My supposition is that they planned that all along, basically, because I'm telling you, the water rights to the Brazos River that they own, that the district owns, only allow 12,500 acre feet of water to come for municipal use, and that's a fact. I've got it right here, as a matter of fact. They did go to the bother of getting it adjusted, they called it adjudicated, which added an A out there into the number of water rights. But what it basically did, all they asked for was to build Turkey Peak, and the other thing that they asked for, no more water rights, they didn't want any more water rights to water. They asked for the ability to the ability to divert water out of the perimeter of any location on the new lake, okay? Well, that tells me, I mean, if you can only do 12,500 for municipal use already, we're not using that now, you know, so it's not really a concern at this point. But if you start selling to other people, how are you going to get that? I mean, it's got to come from somewhere on this other new lake, you know, because they can't get the water rights as far as I know. And that's another thing. They've lied on a lot of spots on the application to the Water Development Board for the funding. I looked at their 22 application where they got this last $12 million. And they basically, they flat out state that yes, they have all the water rights that are necessary for the project. And that's just not true. Yes.
I have a question. So if Turkey Peak occurs and they start selling the water to say, let's say Abilene, which I've heard that town.
And I've heard that mentioned
Yeah.
also. I don't know
And
if
let's
it's
just
true.
say, you know, the city starts making money. Are they going to refund back these people that
Right, that's a good question.
70% increase, maybe higher, I've
I
heard?
think that's a good question. You think it's fair?
Why should we be the ones paying for it?
And then I asked that of Chief Sullivan in my email that when I first started talking with him about this, and I asked him, I said, you know, what makes you think, or how happy do you think Mineral Wells residents are going to be when they find out that they are the ones that paid for this lake, you know, and all this have been paid for? Because you remember what, several years ago we had our water bills jacked up by 60% to pay forward on Turkey Peak.
Well, now you're in that condition right now from years back.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Forefathers with our sanitation system and sewer system,
Yes.
that we had to go out and pass bonds to get our system to be acceptable.
Right, oh, and
That was
that's
passed in, and we're paying that now.
good point. And another point is, you know, the Hilltop Treatment Center, that those violations that, the one that was most important was the one that says we're operating under capacity at a 13.3 deficit. You know, that's very concerning. That's why they got the violation. They only told us about one violation, and it took them a year to do that. It was that big meeting they had out across the country club there at Link, I think Link, what is that the name of Link Oilfield Services? It took them a year to even come clean about that, and when they did, they only told us about one violation. There was over 15, you know. That's not transparent. Yes? Hey.
I have one question.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just talked to my son this afternoon, and he's been working in Breckenridge. His boss bought a house out there, and they're remodeling it to get ready to sell it. The water bill without any consumption at all is $150 a month.
It's
Any
rich.
water or anything on, is on top of that. His boss got a bill today in the mail for the 5 months they have not billed him, that he's been working on this house, for almost $1,000.
I can imagine, yeah, for 5 months all at once, that's the kind of position we'll be in. I don't think they let us get past 5 months though, or past, 30 days probably. Go ahead, Joey.
Well, I know that if HB 5406 would have passed, that
Yes.
cross-regional water
That's
authority.
it, yes, the regional,
And
utilities
if
already
they
said
would
that.
have passed that, they would have wiped away all of the TCEQ violations,
That's
which
true.
is what they wanted. And
That's
the
true.
quality of the water is poor, and they're wasting water like crazy, and they're flushing all the water, so when the TCEQ guys
That's
come,
correct.
they flush. How many gallons do they waste to do the flushing?
We have no idea.
It's 15
They're
days of
allowed a
constant
certain amount
flushing.
for flushing as far as the state's concerned.
5 million in the last.
Yeah, Joe can talk to you more about that.
3 weeks.
He's got a place out by where he lives out there on base, that they actually installed a valve. So they don't, so
Yeah.
just walk over and turn it on
That they're wasting.
for days and days and
Open
days.
it up.
Yeah,
Well, what about when
They got a tap,
do
they
it all
don't
the
back
time on
open
the
and let it
street,
run
and
24 hours a day.
I'm sorry.
Pulling up the creek.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you had a video on it, didn't you, just yesterday or
Yeah.
something? Yeah, look out on We the People, because he's got a video. He doesn't say much about it. He says Parker County or, and the date, I think is what you say. But that's coming from the water lines. That's where they're flushing it, and they're just letting it run and run. He says it's been, how many days was it on? Or is it on still?
Well, you can see this water at Hood.
It's a creek. It's made as a whole-
Got to the Hood Road.
And they're doing it because the quality of the water is
Yes.
so bad
That's correct.
that they have to flush, it's like
To
a
get the
drug test.
sedimentation out.
So you go through detox, so when the coach says, I'm gonna test you, you're finally clean. That's exactly what's happening.
That's really what it is. It's blowing all that sedimentation and all that trash out those hydrants. You know, most places, they do that at the airport with hydrants and several locations out in places hydrants. But like I said, they've actually installed a valve out by his house, so they can just walk over and flip the switch and let it go, because they did it so often, you know. And to me, that's very concerning. Joe's kind of kept me apprised of that throughout the last couple of years, because we, discussed it. Yes,
Can
ma'am.
you repeat some of the questions that are asked? Sometimes we can't hear what the questions are that are asked.
Oh, that are asked, I'm sorry, yes, I can. Did you have something you wanted to ask?
Why are they now writing laws or whatever for against the companies that were drilling on our streets to put the,
Oh, why are they not?
no, I think they are
Oh.
now concerned about it when they were doing the drilling for the Optimum.
I know what you're talking about, yeah. She's asking why didn't the city, or are they, suing these cable contractors that they said you messed up so many lines and spilled our water
And
everywhere?
gas lines.
And gas lines too. I don't know that answer. She's saying, are the city or anyone taking action against the cable contractors and that have cut the lines, the water lines in town, installing fiber optic cable? They also got some gas lines. And I'll tell you the truth, what I think about that, folks, is I think that they had the lines marked. I think the city did have them marked, but they don't know where all the lines are. I mean, I just simply don't think they do. And the only way they do know about it is when a leak happens. When it's dropped down, you can't ignore it anymore. That's when the pipes get fixed. They've not done anything as far as I know, as far as leak detection. Yes.
I know that they have either passed,
They did pass an ordinance, that's correct.
to,
Put a moratorium on it or something?
no, they
No?
didn't put a moratorium. What they're doing is vetting the people that the company allows to do the drilling.
Okay.
And if they have had more than 3 violations, like in the past 5 years, they cannot do work.
Oh, okay. She's saying that the cable contractors, the city council did pass an ordinance of something of that type that if they, to vet, check out all the cable contractors to make sure that they were qualified. And if they have had more than 5 violations, that's a lot. 3 violations in 5 years.
I think that, don't quote me. but
She's not sure on that, but
It
I mean.
seems like it's something in that area.
And it was concerning that they kept hitting those lines, but I'm sitting there going, how dare you even talk about the cable contractors losing 1 million gallons a day when you lose 2 million gallons every day minimum. And you're telling us all about the contractors? I mean, this was an accident in any way. You guys, you know what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing, and you keep on doing it. You're not concerned. We've also asked, I'm sorry, Gina, go ahead with that thought. real
Another
quick.
thing with the cable and cutting the water and such, when they made an agreement and made a commitment, was there a paragraph put in
As far as the disclaimer.
that they are responsible and for
Right.
those
Well, that should have been
items
done
that
before
would
the-
happen,
It should have been done when they signed the contract, before they signed the contract, you're right, that's a good point. He says, our city, if they've been thinking, and we don't know if they did or not, but there should have been something in the contract that said, whose indemnity or whatever it was, whose debt it's gonna be if something does happen.
And a completion date.
And I believe I've been told that they require a $1 million insurance policy, so I don't know why they're not going after the insurance company. They say that all their contractors have to have a minimum $1 million as far as liability.
But
Yes.
you have to start.
Well, that's true.
The reason they're not going after this now is because they just implemented that.
On the $1 million,
No,
Oh.
she's saying they should have insurance.
I'm saying they should have insurance if they're a contractor for
I
the city.
agree, but I don't know that.
It should be.
The state, if they follow the state of Texas, not the city. Because the state of Texas was the one mandating that we get fiber in because we are considered rural.
Right, it's part of the program to give it to everybody in the rural
And so,
areas.
I'm almost sure that before
Okay.
we did that resolution that they just did.
Yes.
That we did not have the power to do that, the state of Texas would have had to do
Well,
that.
I don't understand that, but what you're saying is that every contractor that they use in the city of Mineral Wells, they've stated many times that they're, and that they should go out on the bid, whatever, on anything for a bid or anything. And are they contracted by the city? No, you're saying it's the state, that was
Yes.
I misunderstood what she said totally. She's saying that the state was the one that mandated the rural areas getting the fiber optics and things, and that's who should be going after the cable contractors, not the
Or they
city.
might be, I don't.
Well,
they
most
might have
likely,
to.
since the state was the one that was actually dealing with it. It wasn't a contract with the city. But, I don't know. I don't know a lot about that situation because I really considered it a distraction that they put out there to distract us from what we really should be thinking about, the $2 million that they lose minimum.
Now, are we more concerned about them losing water over this instead of?
Definitely.
The details
Mhm.
coming into.
And those details only came out on that drought report after I'd already approached the city manager about their losses of over $2 million a day. You know.
That whole thing. They're having breaks because the lines are old. and-
Well, yeah, they're more than 50
the
years
ground's
old.
free.
They've admitted that. You're right, Joe.
That's.
He's saying that
that's very-
the majority of the infrastructure is over 50 years old. And I mean, everything we got, folks, my point is, everything we got is at the end of its useful life, or was 10 years ago, And we can't be expected to make it all up in one big blow, and that's not even making it all up. That's just Turkey Peak, a treatment plant, and a public works facility. And I'm sorry, I just don't think that that's reasonable. And as far as, going around with people and not getting a vote on it, that's reprehensible. I don't know another word for it. Yes, sir.
I've got another question. I'm not an engineer, but they're talking about this Turkey Creek. There's
Peak.
like a gentleman said a while ago, it isn't gonna do the water for us right away, it's gonna be a long time. The other side is, we decided to build it down the creek with place we have, the watershed will keep it clean.
That's
Right
correct.
down the road.
Yay.
He's making the point that, did everybody hear him? Making the point, yeah, we've got Possum Kingdom sitting up there that said right now in the middle of all this is at 96.3, I think, percent full. I mean, they had those options in 2014 to do a pipeline, from Possum Kingdom, which would have been, helped us in the good times and the bad times, that's short term and long term as far as I could tell. It's just they've been presented so many options, and there were options that were given to them by their own engineering company. It's not like somebody walked in and said, no, buddy, you're doing it all wrong. These came from the people they're paying, or we're paying, rather, And I just, yes, Gordon.
Terry, anybody that may know, my question's a little bit different. They're getting real close to my part of town, flagging stuff, and it looks like they're fixing to start putting the cable through.
Uh-huh.
They're flagging your utilities, your water, your phone, this, that, and the other. It's all good and fine. I happen to have a Husqvarna auto mower that has a perimeter wire around my whole business. That's like $2,200 to get that put in.
Right, to get it
Well, there's nobody gonna come out and look for that because you have to have a special machine to flag.
Okay.
So if they come through my yard and tear that up, I mean, what right do I have? I mean, they start putting flags in my yard, I'm gonna start sleeping in the front yard because they're not gonna do it.
Everybody knows what
That's
I'm talking
all
about.
right.
Yes.
My daughter-in-law is a registered nurse in Westford, and they were gonna put, whenever they put the new sewer lines in, they were gonna dig up her yard loose. I'll have my gun out here and I'll shoot any gas up on there that tries.
And they believe her?
Yes,
A good
they
deal.
went through the concrete, they did not touch her yard.
Well, I just think that there's so many questions, see right here in just a few minutes that we've spoken. Everybody has questions, and we deserve answers, but we're not really getting them. We never really have. They have told us how they feel about our thoughts. I mean, made it very clear, I think. I'm sure y'all are familiar with the reduction of the public seating, Beth's rules, we call them, quote unquote, all these things, and it's just to keep us away from our voice. Yes.
Okay, we only live here, I think, they live that out.
All right.
It was real, and it was trash can. So
Yes.
the city council don't want to have to, they don't listen to any citizens, because the last part of the meeting, we had about trash cans, he's telling us what they've already done.
Right, you're exactly right. He's saying that most of the times they're telling us what they've already done or what they've already decided. And what it's gonna cost us. Yeah, pick up the ticket.
Where did that 70% come from that they volunteered to say that's what we're gonna take
Right.
out of the pie?
Right, where they came with those
Come up
figures.
with the numbers and that, or did they just throw darts at the board?
Exactly. You know, he's saying, how did they come up with the amount 70%? Is that a random number or is it real, you know? And that's another thing, they said to be able, I mean, let's just say, they get up there and they quote all these facts and figures, you know, a pipeline's gonna cost X amount $1 million and, you know, Turkey Peak is the best bang for your buck. Well, you can tell me that all day long, but until you show me something, I'm not really gonna believe you because they just sound a little bit far-fetched to me, you know? And that's just me, but, you know, I think they owe that to me. I'm a taxpayer, just like you folks are. You know, if you have a question, it needs to be answered. Yes, Ron?
They just expect you to take their
Whether they
word
call
for
it-
it, that's it.
Whether they call it a rate increase or whether they call it a tax, it's the same thing. It's your money. You know, it's your money and you deserve a way to tell them what you want to use it for, you know, and what you don't.
You
Yes,
know,
Ron?
the other thing that's affecting is where a lot of seniors are.
That's true. I think that we're going to lose a lot of people from town. I don't know where they're going to go.
I'm facing that at Western Hills,
Mhm.
because when those were built way back, they put one water meter for 12 units
Mm.
and then ran it off.
Well,
That wasn't such a big deal, but the problem is now, you're gonna raise that rate, I'm paying for that water. Well, now it's getting to be so costly, I've gotta affect my seniors, which most of that's theirs.
sure, they have a fixed
And I've
income.
gotta- And
Yes.
they're on a fixed deal, so what do? I have
Right.
a hard time.
Well, you know, they're not going to give us any more money. They're not going to give us any more money if you're on Social Security or anything else. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. I thought I got you a minute ago. I forgot to come back.
Okay, I know of that there are private owners with wells that are, access the Trinity Aquifer.
That's correct.
200 gallons a minute. Why has the city considered buying water from the private owners?
I do not know that they have.
The water.
I do know that they recently paid quite a bit of money for water rights from the city of Manville, where they're not even anywhere near where we're at. But as apparently on the Brazos River rights, you can buy a water right and you can use it anywhere on the Brazos River. It has to be, you know, if their land's 30 miles from here, they can still use it here because it's just for the Brazos River. So, yes. She was asking why, has the city considered maybe talking to private well owners and trying to purchase water from them? And I said, I'm not aware of that.
Terry, to answer that question, I talked to Chief yesterday. We
Yes.
didn't touch it specifically on that, but two things. You'd have to get the water to the treatment plant, which is going to be a distribution nightmare. And then the second thing, the well has to be certified with the state.
That's true.
So,
Good water like this.
so
Yeah,
and
apparently, because the courts quit fucking trucking it in too. She's using that water.
and so and they ran in.
Brazos Valley. Oh, well, of course. But, you know, that's another concern. We have got a lot of missing water, folks, that they haven't even documented, as far as their reports. We've looked at them. We've got over line by line, and they're just acting like there's like, what, 300, what is it, Lisa, tell me the figure on the water that they don't even report. It's 300 or is it 400?
No, it's 400 from the county to the city is not accounted for.
Yeah.
And then another 380 is loosely accounted for.
Yeah, that's where they do the flushing and everything, the loosely. But, I mean, that's a lot of water, a lot of water.
And when you say 380, is that 380
Million.
million gallons?
Million.
Million gallons.
Yes, and that's per year.
Not 380 gallons.
No, 380 million
380
gallons.
million gallons.
And they're acting like it doesn't even exist. We've got numbers from the state that show how much was taken in, you know, from Lake Palapinto at the inlet valve, or intake valve. And then we've got what they're saying starts at the plant. So I don't know if that's, you know, the 27 miles plus what's sitting up in the sedimentation reservoir. You know, who knows? They're not even saying it was there to begin with.
Is this why is this why you decided to recall the city council?
Yes, it is. You know, it's not only our right, it's our duty to keep our eye on our elected officials and make sure that everything is right with our money. I mean, that's the way it's intended to be.
Is there a plan for, and how hard is that to do?
Well, it's not done very successfully. I mean, very often in Texas, I will tell you that, because people make it, or the city council makes it very hard to do. We looked at, first thing to do was, of course, go to the charter. So what is required? You know, we look at it, and there's 3 different types of petitions that we have the right to do since we're a home rule city with a charter. They have initiative, referendum, and then we have recall. Well, the first 2 are a lot easier to do because those 2 types of petitions only require 25% of the amount of voters that voted in the just prior election. So, I mean, come on now. That's next to nothing. You know, that's next to nothing. But now you go down another paragraph and look at the recall, and we've got to have 25% of the total number of elected voters in the city.
Registered voters?
Registered voters, yes. Registered voters. That's the only kind of voters there are.
So 25% of like Ward 1?
Okay, for the mayor, for the at-large positions, it is 25% of the entire city. And they say they've got over 8,000 registered voters. And I mean, that's a lot. I mean, especially when you look at our elections, maybe have between 400 and 600 voters that show up. But that just shows you how downtrodden this town is. You know.
Confirm that.
I'm sorry?
Where those numbers come from and who confirmed that that's the number?
Actually, the Laura Watkins over at
the elections administrator.
that's her name, yeah. That's her title, I mean. It's Laura Watkins, the elections administrator over there. And we've also, you know, we keep voter rolls quite often because we like to stay in touch with folks. And those numbers have been verified. You know, but I mean, like I said, it's not only our right, it's our duty. You know? It is our duty.
How long do we have to sign those petitions?
I'm getting to that.
I'm curious.
Okay, we have 30 days from the date we start.
How do we know if those numbers are correct? When's the last time they purged the voter roll?
Well, we actually have an offering, or I guess an avenue that we've been talking about for several months and actually implementing. Joey's working with that. As far as election integrity, because of the concerns nationwide, as far as, you know, ballot stuffing, you know, whatever. Have been going through trying to verify the voter rolls. They're going to be doing that. Knocking on doors, verifying that there are people there, you know, and how many people live in their house, and things like that. There's all different types of approaches to it, but they are going to be implementing those. We've already picked out a test precinct that Ronnie's also working on that they are going over, and you know, we're just kind of waiting to see what they find out. I really think that we needed to do that because that sounds like an awful lot of voters, you know, as far as over 8,000 in the city. What I'd like to do also is compare that to how many are in Weatherford, you know, just to kind of see.
Yeah.
Who knows how long it's been since they did it.
Okay, here's some numbers, Terry, that you can look. It gives you the total number of registered voters.
Okay, it's 8,015, so I wasn't too far off. I said 8,000. Okay, 8,015 voters is what their real number is as far as exact. And that was taken yesterday, I believe, from the elections administrator. In Ward 1, that's supposed to be in this town of Mineral Wells, yes. I know, our actual population is only 14,000, and I think that is a little bit bigger than it should be. Yeah, they have it like the Department of Human Services, you know, where people get on food stamps and get all the benefits and things. They give them a registered vote. You know, everybody, as far as state offices, is going to do that. You know, so there's a lot of people to register. I don't know that there's that many, as far as 8,015. Because a lot of people have left. Our population has been declining. They want to talk to you about growth and how we're just exploding. It's not happening in Mineral Wells. It's happening in the surrounding rural areas. Now, the district may serve them, but the city of Mineral Wells doesn't, as far as, well, they do some water customers. But, you know, and that brings me to another point we'll talk about here in a minute, as far as representation for those people that don't live within the actual city boundaries. They have none. They have none as far as their water and the future of their water, which is a problem. I mean, how would you feel? I mean, at least you guys get to vote normally, unless they set it up like they did this bond, you know, but at least you have the hope of being able to voice your opinion, you know, on it. These people have no representation whatsoever because everything is done through the city of Mineral Wells on that water district board. They're appointed by them, they're governed by them, and, you know, what reason do they have to sue somebody that's not in the city? That's who, puts them in their job, it keeps them there, you know? But back to the ward numbers. Ward 1, there's 453 registered voters. 25%, I'm sorry, that's the numbers, our target number, excuse me, I should have known that. Also, our target number for Ward 2 is 581, so we're being kind of ambitious, but I think we need to be. I mean, we're gonna want to shoot a little bit over that. And that's where everybody needs to come in and work together, getting those signatures on the petition. 524 for Ward 3, and 445 for Ward 4.
To change Texas. Woo!
That's part of the problem, because in Ward 4, which is the ward that I live in, 82 people voted.
That's true. In Ward 4, where Rhonda was saying she lives, 82 people turned out. And look, we've got 445 people registered in that ward. That's pitiful.
No, that's 25%.
So I keep losing that part.
It's about 2,000 registered.
Right.
And we got 80 votes.
And 40 people voted for Doyle. I remember seeing that. And that's what's pitiful. 32 voters is all it took to get that man that seat. 32 voters out there. Entire number of voters in that ward.
And is it gonna take 445 people to take this seat away?
That's correct.
And how do I get to a petition to sign it though?
Okay, we're gonna have petitions set up. I tried to get them on Friday, folks, but of course they roadblocked me on that. It's a new city clerk. I can kind of give her a little bit of leeway on that. She's never done it before. I mean, you know, I can understand that. But I was in there in the morning. I came back at lunch. Yeah, it was just, she said, there's no way, you can't have these today. So anyway, I also put a little bug in the city manager's ear and said, hey, if you can get it working, and get those today, that'd be great. But they're not gonna do that. They wanted to delay this as long as possible, you know, figure out their strategy. Yes.
Doesn't this require, the signatures, you have to live inside city limits?
Yes.
Okay, as long as everybody understands.
And they have to be registered
The
voters.
only people these EJTs are under the
Yes,
influence.
that's true.
What did he say?
He's talking about the EJT, the extraterritorial jurisdiction that they started exercising as far as the city boundaries. So you're not even just safe if you're like a mile outside the city boundaries. How far does it go, Joe, as far as ETJ? ETJ.
I'm not sure how.
I'm not sure either.
Now, probably about a mile and a half.
I figure a mile and a half, something like that. They just started really talking about that recently, so I really thought I hadn't looked into that far. I do know that there are going to be a lot of people upset when they start having to, realize that, hey, they still got me. I moved out here because I didn't want to be in the city. I didn't want to go, put up with those rules, but they're going to get you one way or another, it seems like,
Does our 30 days start?
Our 30 days will start the day that we get the petitions, yes.
Monday maybe?
Monday, we're hoping for Monday. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to start early in the morning and see what I can do. Go down there and see if I can help them, whatever I need to do, to try and get it Monday. Then we will have them set up. I've got two locations that will be able to, you can just drop by just any time. We have the west side storage facility out there. I don't remember the name of it, that's terrible, because they're helping me. Out there just past the hospital on the right-hand side, there's a storage warehouse. Half price, that's it, half price on the west side of town. She's going to let me put the petition out there, and people can just drop by anytime from 8 to 5 and, sign it. And then she'll know the requirements, everything she needs from you. You don't even necessarily have to take your voter ID number. It's nice to have them, but if you don't, your date of birth will work, And she's going to make sure everything's done like that. Miss Linda here is also going to have her home available. She's got a home office, so she's going to let people come by anytime, to sign that. I'm going to provide you with my phone number and possibly a few more folks that if you can't get out of the house, you you just don't do it. I mean, I don't like to do it in the heat either, but I'll go to your house and I'll get your signature that way.
As soon as we get the petition, we'll get the information out there.
Definitely. Oh, I'm going to put it out. It'll be the first thing. You'll see it all over the We the People, okay?
Yeah, as soon as I have them, because if I give you my address, you come to my house.
Yeah, and it'll be on there. We have a petition committee that requires that we have 5 people that one person out of all those 5 has to witness the signature. So there will be one of us at every location or whatever as far as those signatures, because they insist that we certify those and say we saw you sign it and you are who you say you are. Yes, ma'am. No, we're going to advertise. We are also asking for any help that anyone might want to give as far as knocking on doors in your neighborhood. We've got some maps, I think, over at one of the tables, as far as maps of the wards. And if you're wanting to do that, yes, we love it. That's what it's going to take. So many people, and I've seen it before, when we've been out there knocking on doors, you knock on the door and you talk to them for a few minutes, and they say, well, I didn't even know there was an election coming up. You know, and that's truly sad, but I think the city does that intentionally a lot of times, you know, they don't, it's like, we couldn't even have a forum like this last time around. When Christopher came back and tried to, you know, come back and be mayor and make some things known, because we do have a lot of evidence that's come forward since, you know, that proves everything. They wouldn't even let them talk, they wouldn't let them answer questions, because those lawsuits that they're not involved in, that the mayor denies that they're involved in, they were involved, and that's why they didn't do the forum, you know. Yes.
So there's not anything we can do to stop this bond thing, what they're doing? I
I think that the only avenue we have is to make them believe that we know our rights and that we're going to exercise them. You know, like I said, it's not only our right, it's our duty, and it's something that needs to be done. I mean, these people are walking around like they're untouchable. And I don't think a lot of people, and if you've been in the city council meeting and really paid a lot of attention to it, you're not going to know that, you know?
So what about this species that's supposed to be endangered that's out there?
That's the golden cheek warbler.
Yes,
They have
is that
one
gonna work?
They have one final archaeological and environmental thing that they have to pass before they, you know.
I mean, it's not done.
I know, they've
They're
got one more
acting like
study they've
it's
got to
done.
do before construction starts, is what my understanding is. Also, an archaeological dig, you know, as far as that, which I can't believe they haven't discovered some artifacts that would have stopped it, you know, because that area is famous for Indian finds and goes back centuries, you know. Yes, sir.
Let me tell you all about future back there. Village and residential, that's the property down in Coronado Camp, and then we have and I got a contact from Quebec in New York, asking if the property would be joined. So I got to talk with them. They said they were getting ready to do their environmental studies, and they're getting ready, they're going to make that a hydro plant with the plant probably over near Palapena, the city of Palapena, and that bridge, that 180, would be raised about 18 feet, and that would be the only thing crossing it. And it was, they got it stopped down at the end of Keller Road because they got the brown water snake in danger.
Yes, that's true, he's in danger.
And that lake
Yes, it
was
stopped
put in
everything.
over 20 years ago.
You know, and I think it's ridiculous that they're still trying to follow a plan that was made in 1964. I mean, that's a long time ago. They've already had to, in 1 year, during this time, they have doubled the price of Turkey Peak in 1 year because the engineers decided they needed a whole different type of dam. You know, now's the time to tell us, you know. Of course, it's only gone bigger and bigger after that, you know. There's no guarantee that it's not going to be a $500 million dig, you know, before it's over. We have no way of knowing.
Can I say something real quick?
Certainly.
Just real quick. Most of you are not going to know this at all. I just happened to come across it on one of the message boards on Beth Watson's Facebook page. Apparently, her and some other people are going to be passing around a petition to cut off the other communities from the water supply.
Now, where did you hear that?
It's on Beth Watson's page.
Is it? I need to go out there and check
Sam
it out.
Waddy.
I know she's in favor of selling the water. She stated that on video, I
No,
think.
she
But that's, where else are they
She
gonna
will
get it?
support a petition to cut off water to all the other communities.
Well, I think that's next to impossible since that they've already sold to it.
Municipalities can break contracts.
The state doesn't often let them though, because they've already obligated their, you know, the water to those people and they expect you to continue serving them. That's why I don't want to see
Yeah,
them
but once
money
it's
from
over,
customers.
it's over.
You know, once you start, you really can't stop. And the water belongs to the state of Texas, you know, Mike's right about that. So, anyway, I just feel that
How much money are they wanting appropriated for certain projects? And they don't even know that they're using it because it's endangered species.
that's correct. They still have some goals they have to meet as far as the Golden Cheek corridor.
We need to get a priority right.
Kind of got the cart before the horse, don't they? He's saying that they've got the cart before the horse because if they haven't even, you know, finalized the study on the endangered species, and, you know, why are they spending all this money so far?
Somebody needs to be watching that to go like that.
That's correct. That's correct. It needs to be put in a separate account and doled out.
No, when all of a sudden they have a project going so when the project's supposed to happen, well, we're not gonna do it.
Well,
First of May,
and we've seen that over and over in Mineral Wells. Everyone is familiar with, we've never had a bond project that actually completed for the money that we paid for, or we approved for it, correct? Well, that's it. You know, the high school out here, they built us a real nice high school, and it's a real nice stadium, but when it came time to buy the bleachers at the very end of it, we had to rent the bleachers because we had run out of money. You know, the covered pool that they approved in 1989, the public approved bonds in 1989 to give us a covered pool facility. Before that, we did have a really nice sized pool. It was old, but it did the job. It was very large. It was nice. It was big trees all over everywhere, and it was right there in the West City Park. Well, they got the bond together. We paid for that, and when it ended up, we got a smaller pool. It's nice. You know, a nice little building beside it and everything, nice shower area, but it has no cover. You know, we'd heard all of this about how the kids were going to be able to have year-round events and competitions and host, you know, other cities that would add to the tax base here in Mineral Wells. Never happened. Yes, ma'am, you got a question?
Well, it wasn't a question. Part of that covered pool, I worked 35 years right over there at Kansas. And when the first Japanese company took over, it was called Sumitomo. And they were going to pay to have the city park and pool covered.
Is that right? Well, that didn't happen either, did it? I mean, it's just, a lot of times people have volunteered their services and paid for things I've seen, and the city of Mineral Wells has refused it for the
I
liability.
don't know about that part of it.
Well, I do know that about the Woodland Park Cemetery down here. The little building out there that's by the duck pond, there were several people who were very upset about it because the roofers came in. And, you know, since people got together, they had people that are, you know, they're out there at the cemetery. They were cared about that, and they'd always gone out there and thought it was kind of a, you know, nice place. And they volunteered to pay for the roof repair, and the city said no. You know, so it sat around like that for a lot longer. And finally, they got around to doing it. You know, but it was like 2 years later with everybody complaining. You know, we the people actually did a little thing on it and posted about how, you know, they're going to do this for free, and you check will turn it down. Just let it sit there like that. You know, they just don't care. They don't care.
Well, somebody had mentioned asking the state for audits. Is that something that we can do?
Well, as far as the state, I don't know. I know that I called everybody that I could think of. I ended up calling, at one point, I think I called the people who are in charge of the universities and things and their financial stuff, because I was just calling anybody at the state agency I could find. You know, just asking them. Been trying to get the word outside of our little snow globe that we need help. And it's come to that fact, actually. We have a representative here, or a gentleman who's running for House Representative from District 60. He'll be running against Glenn Rogers. Mike Alcott, I'm going to turn the microphone over to him and let you guys listen to him. Give him a round of applause for showing up tonight. And let me tell you something too. Mike is committed to helping Mineral Wells, and for that I'm so appreciative, and we're so glad to have you here. Mike Alcott, everybody.
Thank you, Terry. Well, what really inspires me is that this is what America's all about, what we're doing right here. And you all should be proud of yourselves for stepping out here on a hot day to come out and not only voice your concerns, but actually listen to what's going on. And Terry Glidewell is amazing. I met her for the first time about 3 months ago. And she's, as I tell her, she's like a walking encyclopedia on what's going on in Mineral Wells. There's probably no one that knows more that's going on in Mineral Wells than Terry. And so I hope you all get her phone number, and she's probably going to kill me for saying that, but I think you all need her phone number because you got questions, you ought to give her a call. But I also wanted to encourage you all to get involved with the new Palo Pinto County Conservatives group here in Palo Pinto, because they just got started about 5 or 6 months ago, and Joey and Ronnie and Steve and Lisa, an amazing researcher. I mean, this woman can dig up anything and everything you want to know, and so they would be an enormous resource for y'all to actually to stay involved in it. Like there's certain issues that are bothering you all in Mineral Wells, you can bring to their attention, and they will send out emails and help get the word out, because that's what it's all about. And in regard to the petition, you know, if everyone in here, when you get home tonight, just sit down with a piece of paper on your kitchen table and just pull out a paper and a pencil and write down the names of everyone you know. I mean, how many of you here know other people that are upset about what's going on with the water in Mineral Wells? Just sit down and write down the names. And even if you have not heard someone's opinion on it, I can promise you that from what I can tell, everyone in here, I mean, every mineral wells has experienced this problem. I mean, my wife and I are blessed. We live in eastern Parker County, and water's really not much of an issue there. It is in western Parker County in Brock, where people are like, they'll be in the middle of a shower, and all of a sudden the pressure just drops off. And they're poking holes everywhere over there. And so it is a problem across a lot of this district. And so it's a huge problem that has to be addressed this next session. It should have been addressed this session, and if it had been addressed in the right way, we probably would have a plan, but we don't. And so we need a good plan, and I just wanted to finish by saying I've got some business cards with me, and I would love to share them with anyone in here that I'll put my name and number in your phone. And if you've ever got any questions or concerns, I'd like to be able to hear from you, like things that you're concerned about in mineral wells. And I want you to have that number, because when I get elected, I want you to be able to contact me, because I truly mean it when I say I'm going down there to work for you. I'm not going down there to work for the establishment or the Speaker of the Texas House. And that's something that is going to be very important to me. So I look forward to, I already know about half the people in here, and I'm looking forward to getting to know the other half. And like I said, please, give me a call if you, and I want to hear from you. I would love to hear about some of the issues that are concerning you, not just about water, but anything else. And so anyway, so please do your best to sign the petition. The other thing, when I see these numbers, it's not going to be that hard to achieve. Like I said, if everyone in here finds 10 people to get a signature on a petition, it's a done deal. That's amazingly simple. So, and there's nothing that will send a stronger message to the Mineral Wells City Council to get some of them recalled. That will shake things up like they've never seen anything shaken up in the city. And that's something that you, the people, have the power to do. So anyway, thank you all for listening to me.
I don't know why I'm up here. Terry, who's next? I have nothing interesting to say. Brandon, would you like to come up here and say a few words?
You got
Please introduce yourself, because maybe one person doesn't know who you are.
Well, Terry asked me. I haven't been active lately, or the past several years. Myself, I'm Brandon Johnson. I live here in town. I've lived here since about 2008. Whenever the city council wanted to get a new city hall, that's when I got involved with We the People. When was that? Around 2017? Wow. Okay, so about 7 years ago, we raised a lot of cane. We had a little bit of fun with it. It got pretty rowdy. We got the most people to come out and vote for our efforts. But we learned a lot during that time. And as much as I appreciate this petition, and I think I encourage it, it's going to be difficult because this is a small town, a small community, everybody's tied in together. And it's unfortunate. We stepped on a lot of toes last time. Lynn Murphy and I did. That might be an understatement. But you have to realize that everyone's tied in together with the Rotary, the Lions Club, these boards,
Brazos Foundation.
the Brazos Foundation, the Industrial Foundation, which is kind of, they're rebranding themselves. The Area Growth Council, the City Council, the county. There's a little bit of a feud, I believe, between the county and the city. I really never dug down into exactly what that was. Because we were pretty much focused on the city. Now then you have the school board, you've got all the people within the school district. And so what's gonna happen, and I just wanna prepare people, if you are gonna be serious about going out and getting these petitions filled out, you need to take the rose-colored glasses off and understand that when you go do this, as soon as you do it, it's just like us being in this room tonight, they wanted to kick us out of this. They don't want to, finding a place to meet in this town for this type of group is near impossible when they realize what it's about. And so when you go out and you try to get these petitions signed, say, do what?
We're doing it still, we're doing it.
Well, you're getting it okay back there? All right, so what you're gonna run into, if they were, say it's a teacher, they're gonna get pushback from possibly principals, from top administration on down. You know, if it's somebody who is is friends with somebody who's on a board, they're gonna be told, hey, don't vote for this thing, you need to. And people wanna be accepted, they do. They wanna feel part of the community. And once you start going against this good old boy system, you're gonna be ostracized. And a lot of people can't handle that. And then there's other retaliation methods, you know, that they're gonna employ. You might get violations for your yard not being mowed, and there's a whole host of things that can happen.
So what I'm hearing then is just take the 70% increase, the 200% increase, and just take it like a man, bend me over and give me a few more? I mean, what do we do?
Well, what I'm saying is that's an option. Is option A or B. Now, I'll tell you, I mean, once you go against them, it does make a difference because they have to answer it at some level. But just thinking you're going to go out there and knock on a bunch of doors and get a bunch of signatures, just don't have a false sense that everybody's going to be on board with this. One of the first things that I did, when I very first started doing this, I started walking. I left my house, I live up on the north side of town. I walked down 4th Avenue, and I just had my phone on a live feed, and I just started walking. And I crossed over, you know, around the Baptist church there, and I was going on the southwest side of town, and there's this older lady backing out of her driveway. And I said, ma'am, you know, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you to come vote for city council. And, you know, we're wanting to change things, and this is a couple things that are going on. And she says, son, I appreciate what you're doing, but it's not going to matter. And I've lived here 50 years or whatever, and she said, I appreciate what you're doing, but it's just not going to matter. Now, I'm a forever optimist, so I said, well, I'm going to try it anyway. We're going to make a college go of it. And that's what we did. And I'll say, we voted down the city hall. And I really believe we voted down the water line going out west to the hospital. But they just happened to find 2 or 3 votes, or 15 votes a week later that got mailed in from Iraq back in 2005. So, you know, and then the one that we did try to get behind was the roads and streets. Dean Sullivan, the city manager, I sat down with him yesterday for about 2-3 hours. He claims that all those streets got done. I don't know that they actually got done. The one right there is the 6th Avenue behind the old Bank of America building where the county is now. I know that little stretch of road between the 180s. One block has been paved how many times? I mean, he says, well, they think they got it this time. He's pretty sure, but we're really not going to know till the next rain. So we'll see what happens. But we, yes, ma'am.
This time it's not paved, it's cement in it.
Oh, okay, well, so this time they're gonna have to float all the cement up instead of the pavement.
That's
So-
what she said.
All right, so they put extra, Murphy brought extra concrete and donated it, so it wouldn't look so bad. And that's the beef that I have. I sat, like I say, I sat with Chief yesterday for about 2-3 hours, and he tells me this whole plan that they have. And I've sat with him in the past. He could be full of a lot of hot air, but I try to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. That's the same thing that I did last go-round. I went and talked to Lance Howerton, Steve Butcher, Richard Ball, who's now dead, John Moran, the guy at the chamber, what's his name? All these guys that we went and talked to and explained, hey, we want to kind of figure out what the heck's going on here. They are no longer here. So I will say, no, we're not going to have credit. Nobody said, hey, Land Murphy and Brandon Johnson got rid of all these people, but they're gone. The problem that you kind of get into is there's this, and I don't mean to get too conspiracy and stuff like that, but there's just the fact of it. It's kind of like what I'm telling you about all these vetting, we call them vetting groups. If you're a good boy in Rotary Club, they're going to promote you to this or that. If you're a good boy in Lions Club, we're going to put you here or there. You know, you're going to get a job maybe with Randy Nix or whatever. You're going to find that as you're good and you're a good boy or girl, you get plugged in somewhere. But you end up with this shadow group of people, these shadow families that pretty much run the town. So one of the issues, and again, I say take off the rose-colored glasses, because, you know, I believe it's in Matthew or somewhere, it says, if you clean out a house of demons, I don't mind talking to you, and you can rebut anything I'm saying, and that's okay. And I welcome that. But the thing is, if you take these 7 people off council, there has to be somebody that's plugged in. And that's where my concern kind of comes in. You can take them out, but you got these people
Waiting in the wings.
waiting, that they're going to plug somebody else in who just does what they say. And that's kind of like what the older lady told me when I was walking the street. Yes, sir.
A suggestion on how to, this was years ago, break through the system. We have the property at Glyden Road, you know, Glyden Road was not hot top or anything at that point. And we would catch all, on the weekend, we'd catch all the stuff. So I went down to the board in Alabama, and I said, do y'all have equipment to hot top? And they said, yeah, but we only bring that out, I think it was around October.
Okay.
If I buy the material, we'll use the equipment since we own it anyway. And they said, yeah, we'll do that. Well, September comes rolling around and no phone calls. I have to go over and ask what's going on. And they said, well, we just don't know if, you know, about, you know, even though you're bringing the material from other areas, they had a bunch of excuses going on. That's okay. I said, I can have an ad put in the paper, as big as the page, and saying, your county commissioners turned down free services to pay for a county road. Now, does that sound good for you voting? And then I said, well, wait. And I went back out. No problem. When do you want that machine there?
And that brings up a good point. And that's something that I was talking to Lisa in the back about from Pelican County. That's a good point. And I said, you know, this go-round, one of the things that we can do is, that's a notice. Okay, that's a form of a notice. And instead of us just getting together and kind of griping and saying, yeah, we don't like this, And the rates are gonna go up, and I don't mind talking about that in just a minute, but actually doing some action steps with notice that says, look, we need this information, and then we have these questions that need to be answered in writing. It's a little more difficult than just saying, hey, we're gonna give you the material, because this goes deep in my belief, and I could, look, I told them the other night at council meeting, I said, it was a little over 100 million, 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, to build Turkey Peak. Now it's 200 and something, and you're asking for almost 300 million. And when you factor in the cost of the bonds, which are 4 to 5%, anywhere from 3.8 to 5%, once you kind of figure it all in, you're going to be well over 300 million in a debt load. And I said, that's enough to line everybody's pocket here with at least $1 million to get the vote through, and then y'all get voted out, kicked off the council, whatever. Now, I don't have any proof at all that that would take place. But if you've ever been to one of these investment people, they're going to always tell you, when you're looking to invest in something, past performance is not a guarantee of future results. But it's a pretty good indicator.
Yeah.
Now, what Terry went over, you need me to get off the mic?
Take as much time as you thought.
Well, okay, all right, well, I'll wrap it up. But I'm just saying that I want to believe Chief, that or the city manager, that, hey, we got to do something with the water, because that is something that we have to do. But how we get there is something that we really need to think about. And the biggest deal to leave with is public confidence. If we don't have public confidence in these people who've been driving the bus all along, they can't handle 300,000, 3 million, and we're fixing to hand them $300 million basically. And that's the scary part to me. So.
Yeah, thank you.
Hello? I'm the soft-spoken person, so I'll be reminded to put the mic up. I'd be remiss if I didn't start with Terry Blevins. He would always, when I sat as mayor, he would come up to the podium and he would always say the same quote to start everything. It was really, and someone's going to have to Google and tell me who actually did this quote, but he would always say, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men or women to do nothing. To do nothing. Who was it again? Mark Twain. So Mark Twain said it, but it was Terry Blevins that ingrained it in my mind as I would sit up on the dais. My name is Christopher Perrican. I was the former mayor in 2018 to 2020. Before that was honestly legally removed. The reason I've come here is because, Terry had asked me about it, and if anyone has experienced the corruption that has gone on in this town, I think I can speak to it more than anyone. But I will tell you this, I was asking the Lord, because it's about an hour drive for me coming out here, and I said, Lord, what is it, if I am asked to speak, what would I say? And the one word that I kept hearing was courage. And there's a famous scripture that most people, if you follow and go to church, is in Joshua 1:9, where Joshua is given a command, is be strong and courageous. But what preempted what was before that command, because that's in Joshua 1, Joshua was a military leader. He was the guy that was sent out, he was one of the spies. He went across the Jordan into the promised land to spy and see if this is where the Israelites were going to be. Could they take the Amalekites, the Philistines, all the Ikes or Eames that were in the promised land? Joshua comes back and gives his report, and all the Israelites on the other side of the Jordan are like, oh my gosh, man, we're like grasshoppers to these giants. And then you have this command that's given by the Lord, and it's not a request, it's a command. It's be strong and courageous. And so what I would say is this, just as Joshua was a spy that went and looked across the Jordan, and saw what was there. He also saw the land flowing with milk and honey. He saw that there was good things that could be done. I sat up on the dais as mayor, and God gave me a unique position to look at. And I have a real simple philosophy. The Lord calls me to love people, so I love people. And I do that in every way I possibly can. While I sat as mayor, I realized very, very quickly that things were wrong, things were corrupt. They were so unjust against the average person, of the citizen of this town, that if I didn't stand up and say something, then when I stood before the Lord, as Ecclesiastes, the end of the Ecclesiastes talks about, it says there's two things. There's the most important thing. Every person in this world will stand before the Lord and will answer, did you fear me and did you obey my commandments? And I would never be able to stand before the Lord and say, Lord, I've done all that I can to help what I see the injustices around. So what did I do? I drove down and I went to everyone I possibly could. I went all the way to Austin and to Ken Paxton and became a whistleblower. The retaliation that came from the whistleblowing, I can tell you stories for hours. I've been asked to keep it short, so I'm not going to bore you with, well, we'll have another meeting if y'all really would like to know. My point is that I want to encourage you that even though I've gone through those fires, and I will consider it God's refining fires, even though it was done at the hands of crooked people, there is a land that's flowing with milk and honey. There is wisdom that can be utilized in the decisions for our town, because our town is so beautiful. The topography here is incredible, unlike most cities I see in Texas. And we have an opportunity to build this to be a beautiful town. The problem that I see from standing back outside of politics is our council has decided to pursue the tourist and make everything for the tourist instead of the people that live here. But we're called to, as politicians, to serve those that are here. And the best way to do that is to be, honestly, wise stewards of what we have. So there was a scripture in Ecclesiastes, I read it earlier today, and I don't remember it. I actually took a picture. I was like, I like that. And it was this. It says, wisdom has the advantage of giving success. This is in Ecclesiastes 10. The scripture before that, so wisdom has the advantage of giving success. The scripture before that, it talks about an axe that's dull, and a man that's trying, or a woman that's trying to cut logs. And so he says, wisdom would tell you to go sharpen that axe, and you're going to exert less effort, and you're going to have a good result. So that's why wisdom will give us success. I'm encouraged as I look around here, and by my quick math, it's only 2 to 3 people a day that just the people in front of me could go and knock on doors and talk to get to this 2,000 mark. And let me tell you this. So I've knocked on more doors in this city probably than anyone before me. Last time when I was knocking on doors by myself, I probably, and this is not exaggeration, about 1,000 houses that I knocked on doors. I can count on one hand how many people were rude and told me to go away and had nothing to do with me. This is when I was campaigning for mayor again. And I'm telling you that as an encouragement to be encouraged, to stand firm and be courageous, to go out and knock on doors, to share and talk with people saying, hey, did y'all know that our water rates are going up? Did y'all know the facts behind, or have y'all even thought about what this means? Just start the conversation. People want to be part of this. They want to see a council that's actually going to look at the facts and make a decision. If the council's not willing to do that, then you all have the ability to get rid of them through this petition. Scripture says in 1 Peter that the 2 primary goals of government, which would be our local government here, is that they're to reward those that are doing righteous deeds, and they're to punish those that are doing evil deeds. That's really the role of government scripturally as we look at it. And our council has flipped that on its head. I'll do 2 stories. One about Beth Watson. So when I was indicted under aggravated perjury and I had to go stand, heck, they ran me through jail and fingerprinted me and everything. Prior to all that happening, I go into executive session because I was called by the attorney saying, hey, we can't represent you and talk to you because they got accusations against you that you've perjured yourself at an appraisal review board, mind you. And I was like, I had no clue about any of this. When I get into executive session, and prior to all this time, I'm being told by city attorneys illegally, and they were lying to me saying I can't talk about executive session. You absolutely can talk about executive sessions. So I go into executive session and I'm met by the council, one of which was Beth Watson. She's like, well, why are you going and protesting taxes? And I was like, well, the county asked for an elected official to go up there and give the, how much it sold for, and I have the data for it. I've seen the taxes, I've seen information from not only our website, but even stuff that came into my email as mayor. And it was interesting because Beth, I was quoting the Industrial Foundation where they had their numbers on there and how much they had sold the property for. And I read verbatim at the county how much they sold the property for. And Beth was like, oh, we changed those numbers. I'm like, right. So, and I found out later on she evidently was one of the people that went to the sheriff as well as Butcher and Ball to bring this accusation against me that was baseless. Not only was it baseless, the sheriff didn't even take it as an affidavit. And yet I had to suffer for 1.5 years under the restrictions that I wasn't allowed to leave the county without a permission slip. I wasn't allowed to be outside my house past 9 o'clock or 6 a.m. 1.5 years I suffered. That's the tip of the iceberg. Number 2 story. I hadn't been mayor for very long, and we were dealing with the drainage issues, the water, I think it was the drainage issues on the water rates. And so there's a $2.50 charge that you have on your water bill. And I won't forget, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but I will never forget him. He came up as an older gentleman, and he sits before us, our council, and I know it's an intimidating position for y'all as citizens to stand before that dais, and you're looking at these imposing figures, the political figures that are up there. We're people. And this guy broke my heart because he said, listen, I want a fixed income. To your point, Gene, he said, I want a fixed income. This $2.50, I don't know how I can do this. And inside of me, it just broke me because it was like $2.50, and I mean, I had a plan that would eliminate all of our property taxes within 5 years. And I was like, we have got to solve this problem. So if $2.50 is enough to bring someone to stand and sit before a council and say, hey, I can't do this, can y'all help me? And the council disregarded him, completely disregarded him. It's not for me. I tried to advocate and fight as much as I could because I do love people. And I believe that God had put me in the position I had for a ministry purpose. Just think how much more important it is when we're talking about not just a raise in the rates. We're talking about the ability, you may lose water. You're talking about life now. Having a conversation with just 2 people, 3 people a day for everyone in here reaches that goal of 2,000. And just a heads up, when they try to remove me from office, which by the way, there are 2 federal lawsuits, 2 state lawsuits going on, well, 2 federal lawsuits in 1 state.
There's yours too.
You mean our mayor lied when she said all of that was settled and behind us?
Absolutely.
I can't believe
Yeah, I believe it. I'll be dang.
Get rid of her.
Yep, so, yes, there are 2 federal lawsuits, and they are big lawsuits. 103 was the number I've heard on the large lawsuit, and then my federal lawsuit, I never filed for money. I told the council I would settle for $1 and to rescind the resolution. That resolution that won't allow me to serve in the church anymore, I can't go back and get my doctorate in school, because the council decided to use the courts, or their little podium as a common law kangaroo court and violate my constitutional rights. So
Have this got to ask y'all, they're talking 70% water, you hear water increase. But when you indicate the water in mineral wells, you've got to count sewer. Because, that dollar of water coming out of the pipe nowadays costs $2 going down the sewer. Now, are they going to take that 70 and let's hit it all again, since we've already been paying for those, that's why those bonds went in for the sanitation systems, or are they trying to build where they can get the lake? Are they trying to go to both pockets? Or we're just going to try to say, fine, your water now is $100. Your sewer will stay at this way down here.
to answer your question, I do not know. I do know this, that the fight that I took on as mayor just on the city level, it took me 3 months to realize how corrupt it was just on the city level. It took me about a month to realize how corrupt it was on the water level. And what I dealt with on the city level would be likened to a trained monkey that's friendly to me and throwing, apples at me. What y'all are talking about undertaking and dealing with, the giants in the land across the Jordan, is like this huge gorilla that's out of a cage that you're trying to get back. And I believe that these numbers are very attainable and very doable, and I'm here to tell you that I don't even live here, I will come and help you. I will be knocking on doors. I've knocked on many of these doors here. It depends on what y'all want, because at the end of the day, all of us are going to be judged on what we did with the time we had. And if you're not going to do it for yourself, then, like for me, I'm doing it because I think of that old gentleman that sat up there and said, hey, I can't even handle $2.50. That's my reason for going out, because I don't want to see, the 15,000 people that are here have their rates raised when there's wiser decisions that are at their disposal. And unfortunately, the council doesn't solicit input like we just had here. Tonight was very encouraging to sit and see people say, hey, what about this question? What about private wells? Whether those are great solutions or not, they're being discussed so that we can make a wise decision together instead of shutting down all the communication and then being told what to do. So I would encourage y'all to make that list as Mike talked about. And if you're out and about in the day, start talking to people saying, hey, we need to try and get signatures for calling a recall on these. When they tried to recall me, and remember, I'm a gentleman that was thrown out of office. I've been sued multiple times by the city because I dared to ask about Baker Hotel documents. I think they got, maybe 100 signatures. I don't remember. It was a very small amount in the entire town, and they ran tons of campaigns. The reason people didn't do that is because people knew I was right. That's why they didn't get me thrown out with the recall. And if y'all will talk to them, you're going to resonate with your neighbors. You're going to resonate with everyone, because there are wiser decisions out there that can be taken and looked at. So I would encourage y'all to just to get out and be active in involvement. I think that's the whole point of why Terry and everyone that set this up, Lisa, they're asking for involvement. Get involved. You're going to learn through osmosis, and you're honestly, just by getting out there and knocking doors, it's going to be seen, whether it's on Facebook, neighbors talking. It's going to be very impactful to the council. And let the results be to the Lord what happens. So anyway, I appreciate y'all showing up. Y'all are incredible. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
We need to all pray before we go ask anybody anything. Because the devil's going to be right there in front of us, knocking us down every chance he gets.
I can tell you prayer was paramount, and I had a group praying for me every week. And I would love, if somebody, that would be your great way to involve me. Hey, we're going to have a prayer session for this. Start praying over the people and knock the doors. Yes,
Anything that I learned about water, I bounced off Murray. So I want Murray, please stand up.
Yes, Murray's
Murray is
indispensable as far as
a
water
consultant in this industry. He's lived at New York, Nashville. So I want you guys to corner him with any questions. And he's too shy to let you know how smart he is, but he's very smart.
That's the sharpening of the axe. And we know what the Bible says about wisdom.
I learned a lot from him, and of course Ronnie. They're very dear to me, but
and they've all worked
and
very
he's
hard.
forgotten more than I know. Okay, that's how it goes.
They've all done a lot to get us.
Yeah, he and
As far as the water
Terry's
study,
researcher,
all
we
these
would
folks know
bounce
about
it over to Murray. So anything we figured out, we would bounce out by him. So
Y'all
I
have,
had to say that. And come Monday to the meeting of Palo Alto County Conservatives, there'll be more of this, more involvement, petitions to sign.
Petitions will be there too.
Yes, we'll have a ton of petitions there.
Monday at
The Middlewell Senior Center at 6 o'clock.
yes, 6
Yeah.
o'clock.
The petition should be there unless they give Terry the old one too, but there's gonna be a really good speaker there about how the taxes were spent in Texas and how our property tax thing really turned out. And he's an amazing speaker. So I'm sure the petitions will be there. I don't think they can delay it any longer, but they will be there for everybody.
one last question, then we're going to wrap it up.
On the petitions, and they did your recall petition, did they not have little dining flies set up on corners.
Everywhere.
Can we do that?
At the back of a.
Absolutely.
Is that legal?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think Terry's gonna post where people are, so that everybody, everybody,
You need to put that out there so they don't just think we're idiots.
right.
And honestly, I know we're talking about recall on the water side, but you gotta look at the liability that this city council has caused. I had solutions worked out for these lawsuits that are now pending in the federal courts that would have been worked out for peanuts. It's insane. And they won't even talk about it to you. They'll actually deny it. No, we don't have any federal lawsuits. Of course not. So, be encouraged. Be encouraged, because those numbers, I know they seem daunting and they would be impossible for the other side looking at doing it, because they don't have the one thing we do have, which is the truth. And seeking out the truth and speaking with people, sharpen your axes, and we'll put plenty of people together for the effort, and the results should speak for themselves. So, y'all have a good night.